Hello, welcome back to Mr. Kendrick's online math class. This is lesson 5.3, writing proportions. Go ahead and turn to the next blank page in your math notes and put this lesson title at the top. Alright, in this first slide here, I would like you just to watch as I use this table to write a proportion. Okay, so this lesson is just focused on writing proportions. We're not solving them, we're just focusing on using information to write proportions. So in this table here, we have two different months worth of purchasing ringtones. So last month we bought 2 ringtones for $6, and this month we bought 3 ringtones, but we're not sure about the cost. So if we want to create a proportion, we can do it in two ways. We can use columns. So in this situation, we can see that we just take the 2 ringtones from here, and that'll be the numerator, and then $6 will be the denominator. So if you look at the table, it really just creates fractions for us, and we just have to pull that information out to write a proportion. So if we use the columns, we get 2 ringtones, and we know that that costs us $6. And this month we bought 3 ringtones, and we're not sure of the cost. We can also do it using the rows, and we would get the same outcome. We can create a fraction saying 2 ringtones to 3 ringtones is equal to $6 to the unknown amount of money. Okay, so either way, either one of these ways works. And you can see that if we bring this table here and we flip it this way, now you can see that we get this setup here. 2 ringtones to 3 ringtones, $6 to our unknown amount of dollars. Okay, so whenever we are using a table to write a proportion, we can just keep the information set up the same way that it already was and just write some fractions from that information. Alright, so first thing I would like you to write down in your notes. Writing proportions. We need to make sure that we put an equal sign between the two ratios. Okay, a proportion tells us that we have two ratios that are equal, so we need to make sure that we have that equal sign in our proportion. Okay, so make sure you go ahead and pause here, write this information down in your math notebook. Alright, and then the second thing is that we want to make sure that we label our proportions. The numerator should have the same label, and the denominator should have the same label. So if you look here, this proportion here says that we are comparing miles to hours. Okay, so both the miles labels are in the numerator, and both the hours labels are in the denominator. So make sure that we always keep our labels accurate. Same label in numerator, same label in the denominator. Make sure you have this written down in your notes. Alright, let's do some practice here. Use the table to write a proportion. Okay, so go ahead and pause here and write these two tables down in your notes quickly. Alright, now I'm going to model writing the proportion for A, and then I'm going to let you do B on your own. Okay, so this first table here, we're comparing dollars to ounces, and from Monday to Tuesday. Okay, so the fractions are already created for us. Okay, so we just can write a fraction line just like this. So our proportion would be 2.08 over 8 ounces is equal to the unknown amount of dollars for 16 ounces. And the first thing I should have done is wrote what our ratio or proportions represents. So we got money to ounces. So $2.08 to 8 ounces is equal to unknown for 16 ounces. Okay, go ahead and try B. and then come back and see how you did. Alright, so you'll see I drew these blue lines to create our fractions, and then we can just pull those fractions right out. So again, here we are working with dollars over pounds. So we got $19.50 over 3 pounds, which is equal to unknown amount of dollars to 9 pounds. Make sure you have this written down, then let's look at some word problems. Alright, so we got a recipe calls for 1.5 cups of black beans and 1 tomato. You increase the recipe to have 6 cups of black beans. Write a proportion that gives the number X of tomatoes in the new recipe. Okay, so we are comparing, our proportion is going to be black beans to tomatoes. Okay, so right now what we know is we have 1.5 black beans, or cups of black beans, to 1 tomato. Okay, so this right here is actually our unit rate. Okay, so we have 1.5 cups of black beans for every 1 tomato. Okay. And if we're going to increase the cups of black beans, so that's going to be 6 on top, and then our unknown is tomatoes, so I'm just going to use T for our unknown. Alright, so this will be our final proportion here. 1.5 cups of black beans to 1 tomato is equal to 6 cups of black beans to our unknown amount of tomatoes. Alright, here's another one. We have a school requires 2 computers for every 5 students. Write a proportion that gives the number of computers needed for 145 students. Okay, so our fractions are going to be computers over students. So I'll just use C for computers, S for students. Okay, and now what we know already is we know that it's 2 computers to every 5 students, and we need that to be equal to 145 students, and we're trying to figure out how many computers we'll need. Okay, so we have, here is our starting fraction, 2 computers for every 5 students, and then we created this ratio the number of computers that we would need for 145 students. So this would be our final proportion. Alright. Now we're going to look at a couple different examples here. We're going to write a proportion to find how many points a student needs to score on the test to get the given percent. So a test worth 20 points and the test score is 85%. Alright, so on the first example, the test is worth 20 points and the test score is 85%. Okay, so the first thing that I want to bring your attention to is this percent right here. Test score of 85%, and the percent refers to per 100. Okay, so we can create a fraction that says 85 out of 100. Okay, and then we know that there are 20 points possible, so we got a test that is worth 20 points, and we need to figure out how many questions we need to get right in order to get to 85%. So this is going to be our unknown. I'm just going to use X for the variable there. Alright, so solving this proportion will tell you how many questions you need to get right out of 20 in order to get 85% on your test. Alright, go ahead and pause here. I would like you to try to do the second example on your own and then come back and see how you did. Alright, so again, this percent means per 100. So 95 out of 100. So our fraction for there could be 95 out of 100. And we're going to set it equal to the number of points on the test ratio. So the total is 80 points, so that'll go on the denominator. And the number of points that we need to earn in order to get a 95 is unknown. So I'm going to use x as the unknown. And solving this proportion here would tell you how many questions out of 80, or how many points out of 80 that you need to get in order to get a 95% on your test. All right, then we got one last question that we need to solve. So number 7 says, without solving, do 3 to 4, or 3 over 4, equals x over 5, and 3 over x equals 4 over 5 have the same solution. All right, so the question is really asking, are these proportions the same? And remember, at the beginning of this video, we talked about creating a proportion using columns or rows. Okay, so this first proportion here, we have 3 over 4 equals x over 5. Okay, now if we were to change this and create a proportion using just the rows, so 3 in the x and 4 in the 5, then our proportion would look like 3 over x is equal to 4 over 5. Okay, so if we turn that, if we switched from 3x, or 3 over 4 equals x over 5, and we just did the rows, it would be 3 over x equals 4 over 5, and we have 3 over x equals 5 over 4. So these are not, they do not have the same solution. Okay, so because, and again, at the beginning of the video, we talked about using the rows or columns to create a ratio, to create a proportion. And you can change, if you use the rows or columns, it will create the same solution. But you can see that in order for these to be the same solution, we need to have 4 over 5 in that second ratio instead of 5 over 4. So this is not correct.